We bring a new perspective, talk, portrayal, and perception.
Reflect on many topics, friendship, love, life lessons.
The goal is to get you thinking, so tune in to the show.
We're immune to all the trolling, leave the comments below.
All right, we're back. Another episode of Trollproof. How you doing today, Yashil?
I'm doing good. It's been good.
All right, if we want to just jump right into it. I mean,
Sir.
I've had something on my mind, something, that I think we could discuss and, kind of gain some ground on.
Yes, sir.
And I want to know what your opinion is on this topic here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what you think the biggest flaw is facing man, or the biggest fallacy facing man. Currently.
I think currently, we have a lot of big problems, but I think it all stems from the self. I feel like we don't. If you ask me what our biggest problem in this generation is that we will change our deodorant, we'll change our lifestyle, we'll change everything externally and do nothing about the person we are, or want to further our knowledge, or just get further in life, period. I think that's the biggest roadblock right now. I mean, for me personally, I don't know about you, because it's hard to identify one thing that's just big. I feel like it is. So tell me what yours is, man. Maybe we can have more of an in-depth analysis.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying that it's just that the fact that we try to change everything but ourselves, pretty much.
Most definitely.
I can understand that, and I can agree with that. The biggest flaw facing mankind.
It's a big question, man. It's like broad,
I mean, I do think, if I were to dive into it just on the surface, I can't say that this is absolute or completely the biggest flaw, but right now I'm brainstorming.
Mm-hmm.
And in brainstorming, I would say a lack of desire to examine differences and to resolve misunderstandings while examining those differences. I mean, people are so quick to either take offense or misunderstand and not necessarily try to gain true understanding. And without that desire to gain true understanding, I feel like we're lacking all over.
But you see, true understanding to me, and the willingness to listen to someone else and understand what they're going through and what their point is you have to realize that you're not the only person that lives on Earth. And let's be real. I bring this back to the time that we live in. The free market economy is the best thing for mankind in that it perpetuates competition. But if we're talking about, character, if we're talking about fallacy, I feel like it also brings to light the greatest vices. And so we're all about, individualism. I don't care what you're going through because, I am doing my thing. I'm stuck in my life. Why would I take the time to understand yours when I'm barely figuring out mine?
I mean, people care a lot about what's going on with them, and a lot of times don't take the time to examine what's going on with others, or even to know what true openness is. I mean, because you can say be open, but if you don't really understand the other's perspective, you can't truly grasp where they're coming from. You can't truly grasp how they communicate. I mean, people are so different. I mean, and the variation amongst individuals is something that I feel is amazing. And I mean, to kind of even trying to dive into why is a philosophical conundrum within itself.
I mean, I think the most colloquial we can be, if we're talking just about the general public, right, is if you look at Democrats and Republicans, right? Um, at this point in history, it is, you could almost equate it to race. You know, just how stratified we are in that, right? And I know plenty of people that if you're a Republican or if you're a Democrat and they find out who you voted for, it's the end of the conversation. And that is that and that's what I mean when I say that the time that we live in has really created a contrast between thoughts, and so it's frowned upon now if you're a Republican and you have Democratic friends, or you're like a Democrat and you have Republican friends, because the two thoughts can't coexist. And once we start doing that, we start sounding like, I don't know, like, World War II Germany, honestly. Um, at some point, we're gonna find someone or some group of people to blame, and that's how the country will be pulled back together. Honestly, I see it
I
coming.
agree. I agree. People search for blame. People search for a scapegoat. I mean, it's been happening since the beginning of time. There's always a scapegoat looked for, and that scapegoat is a lot of times the most convenient victim or the most convenient fallout person, because people don't like to take accountability. I mean, I don't know why it seems like that's a really difficult thing for mankind in general, is accountability. And why do you think that is?
Well, when you start talking about accountability, you start talking about responsibility, right? And in the time that we live in, a company will fire you because they don't want to take the responsibility of dealing with the repercussions of your actions. Um, and so we are quick to disown those that may cause us to be martyrs, even though they may be correct. And so it's a really difficult question, because it puts me in a situation where, man, if I say something that's incorrect, or I say something to the wrong person about the wrong thing, um, they can decide, especially if I work for them, that they don't want to deal with the kickback of, people who are influential that don't like what I say and what I do.
Well,
So that makes it hard.
a shield. It sounds like to me you're saying that free speech isn't free.
Oh yeah, but I mean we've known that. Like, let's be real. Um, the everything that the Constitution outlines has caveats. That's like 100. And so you can't just say whatever you want, when you want, how you want. It sounds weird, right? But in the world that we have created, in the media that we have created, um, it can't happen. And at times it's for the best, and at times it's for the worst, most definitely. Because it frees you to communicate with people all over the world. But at the same time, it puts shackles on the things that you can tell them and how you can say it to them. It doesn't make sense that we talk about a problem and never identify how to fix it. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. I actually had a Facebook argument. Facebook arguments are real now, apparently. But it wasn't an argument, though. It was more like a conversation. And one of my friends, he had posted about that girl that had killed the Uber driver with like, oh yeah, she like went to Walmart, like stole uh a big knife. You guys say machete here. I'm from the Caribbean, the French Caribbean, and we say machete. So she stole a machete, and she called the Uber, and I guess the guy didn't see that she had a knife, apparently. It's like some Jason X type stuff. And yeah, she murdered him, and she happened to be white, right? And so his I guess it wasn't his it wasn't my friend's post per se. He just shared it. But whoever's post it was like labeled it as white privilege because the girl was white. The officers that arrested her didn't shoot her; they just tased her. Her picture wasn't in the news, and nothing that she did outside of the murder was released. So they didn't say, oh, she robbed, this place. She did this. She did this. And so my retort to him was that, how does calling out white privilege in this case help? And he said, well, I'm just raising awareness. And my response to him was, how does raising awareness fix the problem? See, because as black people, we know what white privilege is. We do. I went to A&M. I know exactly what white privilege is. And so, not to say that that's a bad thing, that if you go to white privilege, if you go to A&M, you're gonna find out what white privilege is. But I do. I've seen it happen. Someone gets into a bar. I walk up right behind them. We're just standing in line. They're wearing basically the same thing. In college, everyone wears the same type of clothes. And they stop me and tell me that I can't get in because, they don't allow t-shirts. Well, the 10 dudes from the fraternity that just walked in, they had on t-shirts. In fact, I feel like I'm dressed better than them. However, they have everyone knows this. These clubs have quotas that they have to meet and balances that they have to keep. And those balances, a lot of the times, is less than 5, 10 black people at a time. No offense. So I've experienced it, and so my question to him was like, yo, like I feel like if you're black and you live in today's society, in one sense of another, you've either read about it, experienced it, or someone that has experienced white privilege. And so, how do you improve the human relations? Was my question to him. And the thing about improving the relations is saying, like, how do you stop white privilege? How do we improve the relations between, the discrepancy between our country, the races, the political parties? Is simple. And I think we started with this, or we kind of touched on it. We have to be able to listen to the other side because we can't always be right in everything that we say. That's a very dangerous train of thought. That everything that comes out of your mouth is correct. If we identify on one topic and I just start, taking that same kind of thought, that same kind of correctness, and move on to every topic. And every time, Zach, I look to you and I ask you, hey, should we do this? And you tell me yes, 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 without question, without worry that, oh, well, these people would probably argue against it, but we don't care about that because we know that we're right. It's a very dangerous train of thought. If you go through your whole life and you never think that you're wrong, then your name is probably, like Adolf Hitler. I'm just saying, it's a very slippery slope. And I feel like in today's society, that's what people do. And I actually want to hear what your how do you think that we improve human relations? Because mine is that we have to. It actually leads back to what you talked about, and how you thought, what you thought the biggest flaw fallacy was.